Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of this hero guide, featuring Tracer. In the last episode, I covered the very basics of the hero, breaking down the abilities as well as talking a little bit about her capabilities as a disruptive flanking fragger. Today, I'll be talking about how to utilize her to full effect and show you some clips that demonstrate good decision making on the fly and adjustments. So let's take a look. As I talked about before, Tracer's crazy mobility and small hitbox make her a very difficult target, and she excels at picking off slow targets without an immunity or escape ability. When playing Tracer, you should always be looking for ways to do 3 things. First, prioritize your targets and pick off key heroes. Example of this might be a Zenyatta or Mercy that are a little bit too far away from the rest of the pack of heroes and don't have a tank to defend them, and they're sort of focused on their teammates. Secondly, looking for ways to charge your ult. While some situations may call for a little bit of stealth, you can always use opportunities where you're unable to effectively dive supports to instead constantly pepper their tanks and short-range DPS and build your ultimate. Which brings us to the third priority, creating a distraction. By getting behind the enemy team and biding your time from a safe distance charging your ult, you accomplish 2 things. You create pressure on the defense by splitting their attention. You become a constant factor in the back of their minds that can cause them to make mistakes. And of course, you build your ult charge so when the moment arises, you can blink in and stick a key target securing an opening. Which target you want to prioritize depends on the situation. Thinking about things like, does Mercy have res already? How long have we been fighting now? She may have it charged up. She should probably be your focus in this scenario, since if your team fails to kill her after you maybe take out a tank, it can be extremely costly when she gets the res. Were you able to safely get an extremely early ult? You might be better off sticking Reinhardt and finishing him off. If you're able to do it quickly, the defense will be caught with their pants down trying to find cover before your team can bust through the newly opened choke. So now that we've talked about the priorities of playing Tracer, let's take a look at an example of each of them. You may or may not see Tracer played all that often on defense, but in situations like this where she can easily escape the scenario she's in, she can be a lot of trouble. Right here you can see I'm sort of splitting up their backline by looking at where their healers are and trying to get in between them and create some pressure. It works out pretty well as the healers are cut off, worried about me, and the DPS dive and die. Holding this position in between my team and their team, where I can kind of pop out and do some damage, is a great way to hold for defense. You have to be careful against Zenyatta, as he's actually kind of one of your predators. If he puts a Discord orb on you, it only takes 2 hits to kill you. He can actually kill you quicker if he's got good aim. So this one here is kind of a no-brainer. I'm guessing that because I'm doing placement matches on this account, it's possible that I'm running into people who haven't really played this map very much. These guys are pushed up all the way to our spawn, and I'm able to just easily walk up behind and start spraying down the Reinhardt. My team breaks his shield while I'm doing damage to him, and I just follow up and get the kill. You want to always be looking for opportunities to flank and then get up in their face. As long as you have that recall and you know that you can get away, you can be a little bit aggressive. You just have to be careful not to blink straight into someone's face, because you can just get randomly one shot with that 150 HP. Now as a follow-up here, we've started to push through the choke and I killed their Reinhardt. I see a really good opportunity to sneak around the backside and start creating that split diversion that I was talking about. The team now has to come back and deal with me on the point, and you can see Mercy and Torbjorn are coming over right now. My team is now chasing up their rear. I use my recall to get a sticky bomb, which nets us 2 kills, one of which was Lucio, and it opens up a huge gap for my team to push in. We immediately secure the point after this. Here we moved on to second point, and I've looked for a flank right around the back. I get up top trying to find if anyone's playing on the wall. I don't see anyone there, and I realize that they're down on the ground, so I drop down and get a few picks, making sure to finish off Mercy before I focus on anybody else. We of course clean up this fight now that Mercy's down and they don't have a res, and as soon as the fight resets and we finish wiping their team, I'm looking for another opportunity to get to high ground and flank. Of course I run into Junkrat up here finishing him off, so now he's going to be behind on spawns as well. If you can pick off stragglers like this after a fight is ended, that's also going to give your team a huge bonus, since when you first come up against their force, it's going to be 5v6, or they'll just delay and wait for their extra teammate. Now right here is somewhat of a critical moment, and I think this is something that you should always be focused on. I have Zenyatta, and I noticed that they still have Diva and Junkrat over here. I realize that she's pretty low, it's a 5v2 situation, they don't really need my help to finish her off, so instead I want to prioritize getting to their backline and setting up somewhere where I might be able to catch somebody by surprise. Probably start to notice the pattern here. I'm always focusing their high priority targets like Zenyatta and Mercy, who have game changing ults, and trying to get them down as quickly as possible. I pick off Zenyatta, use my recall to get to a safe distance, and then sort of force their team to pay attention to me, now splitting attention once again. I'm really just trying to take advantage of Tracer's ability to be a backline harasser and give my team opportunities to push in while their attention is kind of split on me. You can see D.Va comes after me here, I get her with a sticky, and then she's out of her suit trying to fight me. They don't have defense matrix or anything like that, and now their whole team's looking at me. They finally pick me off, but in the meantime the payload's been pushed in a bit. Right here is a pretty obvious choice. I'm going after the healers here because the only other person there is D.Va. We end up taking down both of the healers, and now we're going to be able to push. Roadhog gets a little unlucky with his hook here, and I stick him and finish him off, and now all that's left is D.Va. Sad face. The question that should sort of always be on the front of your mind when you're playing Tracer is, how can I create pressure by being a nuisance and getting in between healers and DPS and generally causing disturbances? And what are the good targets that I can pick off and sort of isolate? Right here, I see Pharah. It's a pretty good opportunity. She's going to have a hard time killing me, and she actually just kind of ignores me as she comes down and I take her out. Something I want to mention that I think all Tracer players should understand is that doing well on Tracer does not necessarily mean that you have all gold medals. Doing your job doesn't mean you're getting all the kills or doing the most damage. You have to remember that. The last thing that I want to talk about that is extremely important for Tracer players on an individual level and not just where you fit into the team is how you manage your blinks and your recalls. It can be really enticing to use them all at once and just zip around the battlefield, but there's a few things that you need to keep in mind. The most important thing, of course, is the cooldown on your recall. Having that up before you enter a dangerous situation is pretty much a must. You should almost never engage unless you have that recall. In fact, I think you should never engage unless you have recall. Right here's a great example. I jump down. I know that they're down there, but I kind of want to scope it out and see what's happening. I use my recall to get back up. I know Genji is following me, so I turn around to face him. Something that I see a lot of players do is waste all of their blink charges while they're getting to the battlefield, and then when they reach the fight, they have no blink charges. This is extremely dangerous for Tracer, and it also sort of defeats your ability to get behind the enemy team. Even if it takes a couple extra seconds to get up to the fight, you want to make sure that you're saving your blink charges so that when you engage an enemy, you have the ability to zip around and you're not just caught dead in the water. Here's a good example of intelligently using blink charges. I have all three, and I see Lucio's pretty low in the corner there, but I see that Reaper's with him. If I were to blink in, I could risk getting accidentally one-shot by Reaper by just blinking into the barrel of the shotgun, so instead I blink backwards to create some space. You sort of want to keep a specific distance between you and an opponent when you're playing Tracer. You don't want to be so close that it makes it easy for them to hit you, but you don't want to be so far away that you're losing out a ton of damage on your weapons. Spraying from about this far, I'm losing a ton of damage, but as I get closer, it's a lot more damage. How you use your blinks to engage enemies is also extremely important. Here I'll kind of show you the difference between a good blink and a bad blink, and you can see sort of what happens. Here's an example of a bad blink gone good. I actually blinked through his bombs, which is a really dangerous thing to do, but immediately after getting hit by one, I respond by blinking to where I know there's a health kit. That's something that you should always know about maps as Tracer, is where the health kits are, so take some time to study that. Here you can see me doing something really dumb, which is blinking towards Winston. I got a little overconfident and I ended up getting taken out for it. You don't want to use your blinks to just directly engage a tank like that, because chances are you're going to get taken out. Especially Winston, who doesn't really have to aim at you, and since you're Tracer, your whole thing is being hard to hit. Remember also that using a blink is sort of an audio cue for the enemy team to keep tabs on you. More advanced players will be able to identify where you are by using those audio cues, so be careful. The things I was able to achieve in the earlier clips on Eichenwald on both attack and defense came from a combination of thinking about what I need to do to help my team and how I can play the hero individually very well. A combination of managing my blinks and recalls, looking for opportunities to pick off supports and flank, and create split pressure whenever I can by sort of being in their backline and causing them to divide their attention is really what makes Tracer such a powerful hero. If you keep these tips and tricks in mind and just sort of always focus on what you should be doing as Tracer and keep open communication with your team, you can become a powerful asset to your team as well. That's it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the feedback that you guys have given us on Reddit. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the subscribe and like button, and don't forget to follow our Twitter for more updates on our content. We'll see you guys in the next episode.